This is the CBS Evening News with Dan Rather and Connie Chung.
Good evening. Police tonight say racial hatred was the motive for the massacre on a commuter train in the suburbs of New York.
The police on Long Island say a black man who opened fire last night with a semi-automatic pistol hated whites, Asians, and just about everybody else. The gunman is being held without bail tonight on murder charges. Correspondent Giselle Fernandez begins our coverage of a man with a gun and a grudge.
What began as a routine ride home in a crowded commuter train ended in a bloody massacre. 5 shot dead, 19 injured by gunfire.
Gunmen started coming down the car, shooting at people, and I just crouched down under the seat.
The rampage came without warning. A gunman with a 9mm handgun simply stood up and opened fire. Without a word, he walked down the aisle, shooting as many passengers as he could, pausing only to reload.
It was just bodies all over. Guys were shot in the head. It was disgusting.
The injured, some hit by several bullets, included a woman 7 months pregnant. All were raced to area hospitals as the dead remained slouched in their seats behind blood-splashed windows. This man was shot trying to shield 2 women.
Got a bullet in the arm, which is sitting in my chest right now.
After firing off 30 bullets, the nightmare ended. 3 passengers wrestled the gunman down. Today, police displayed the semi-automatic responsible for the carnage and charged the suspect, 35-year-old Colin Ferguson of Brooklyn. Anything to say, Colin? Police say Ferguson, who has no prior record, was carrying notes that reveal the shooting was racially motivated, an act of retaliation against those he said discriminated against him. He listed Caucasians, Orientals, and Uncle Tom Negroes.
He mentions particularly a variety of people and institutions that he felt were racist.
Among them, Adelphi University, where Ferguson was expelled for threatening teachers and students.
And he sees white people as those people who have to be gotten rid of because they are oppressive towards black people.
Police say Ferguson deliberately targeted one of Long Island's wealthiest suburbs to act out his crimes. Garden City was built to be just that, a peaceful respite from big city evils.
It can happen on the train, it can happen while you're walking to the car, it can happen in your own house.
Many cautious commuters who returned to the train said the tragedy of last night's shooting proves yet again that it may not matter what side of the tracks you live on. There are no more safe zones, not with thousands of guns out on the streets and in dangerous hands. Giselle Fernandez, CBS News, New York.
President Clinton today called the Long Island massacre, and I quote, a terrible human tragedy, and he joined many others in calling again for new and tougher gun control laws. The president acknowledged that gun control laws are not a cure-all for violence. We have 2 reports on guns and the law, beginning with correspondent Jim Stewart.
This was the type of gun the killer used, a 9mm Strom Ruger semi-automatic handgun. It can go through a clip of bullets in about 3 seconds. Sources say the suspect bought his at a sporting goods store just outside Long Beach, California in May. Just one of 370,000 similar pistols sold in the U.S. last year. He paid about $450.
Can you find these most anywhere?
Yes.
All over the country?
Yeah. It's a very popular weapon.
Especially popular with police, who find it easy to reload in a gunfight.
So when it's empty, it will stay open. So you eject the magazine, place a new magazine in it, close the slide, and you're ready to shoot again.
How long does that take?
About 1.5 seconds for a well-trained shooter.
Giving plenty of time, experts say, to shoot 23 people, a reason guns like the Ruger 9mm are in trouble.
Under a bill already passed by the Senate, Colin Ferguson would not have been able to buy the same gun he used in Tuesday's shootings. The reason? It holds too many bullets.
15 to a clip to be exact, 5 more than the new law would allow. Sources say the suspect in this case had a bag containing 100 rounds of ammunition, many of them of the type designed to rip apart on impact. Jim Stewart, CBS News, Washington.
This is Linda Douglas in Washington. The Long Island shootings took place just 3 weeks before the Brady Bill national gun control law goes into effect. But that law would not have prevented yesterday's tragedy. It requires a background check for a criminal record, but the Long Island gunman had no record. President Clinton conceded today that few laws can stop a madman.
No one believes that there's anything we can ever do to solve every problem of someone who snaps mentally.
But gun control advocates seized the moment today to propose a bold package of new gun laws, including federal licensing of handgun owners and registration of all handguns. Supporters fired off a warning to the National Rifle Association.
Don't you dare tell us we don't need any more laws. Don't say we can't control the sea of guns.
President Clinton is considering the idea of gun registration and licensing, which might require gun buyers to be tested on their competence with a gun.
We regularly have requirements, for example, for getting and driving cars that don't apply to the use of guns.
The National Rifle Association says gun licensing won't stop criminals.
My 4-year-old son, if he had enough money, could go in and buy a car anytime he wanted, as long as he didn't drive it on the public streets.
Americans are now beginning to believe gun control may be one way to reduce violent crime. In the latest CBS News poll, 49% now favor an all-out ban on the sale of handguns, though an equal number oppose that idea. Linda Douglas, CBS News, Washington.
In Los Angeles, a postscript tonight to the Reginald Denny beating trial. Damian Williams now says anger over the Rodney King verdict is not the reason he attacked Denny. In fact, Williams says at the time of the attack, he didn't even know about the King verdict. He says he was simply caught up in the frenzy of the moment.
Straight ahead on tonight's CBS Evening News, anti-abortion protesters and organized crime laws collide at the U.S. Supreme Court.
And the latest on Hubble, high-tech eye-opening surgery and how they did it. The U.S. Supreme Court grappled today with a whole new dimension to the battle over abortion. At issue, whether to use anti-racketeering laws against some anti-abortion groups. Correspondent Eric Engberg has the story.
When hardline opponents of legal abortions organize blockades or escalate to outright violence like bombings, can they be sued like mobsters under the RICO laws for running a criminal organization? Abortion clinics and their supporters asked the Supreme Court today to rule that protesters who commit crimes can be punished under the powerful RICO statutes. People like Allie Harper, who has suffered threats and fire bombings while running clinics, say they need more protection.
Abortion providers now and for many years are living almost in a state of siege. It's felt like a civil war for almost 20 years against the anti-abortionists.
Lawyers for the anti-abortion groups argue RICO should be used only against groups that break laws for profit, not organizations that are fighting for a cause.
It would eliminate First Amendment protection under the guise that social protest is now racketeering. That's inappropriate.
That argument carried some weight with Justice Scalia, who cautioned today that if anti-abortion advocates are covered by RICO, wouldn't it mean the NAACP in the early days of civil rights activism would have to fight such lawsuits? The clinics say that's not an issue.
RICO can never apply to peaceable protests, never. And the only thing it can apply to is force, violence, and other activities that are already crimes under either state or federal criminal law.
Congress is on the way to passing new laws to protect clinics, but clinic operators are still fighting to use RICO because it will make it easier to get at the leaders of organizations which engage in violent protests. Eric Engberg, CBS News at the Supreme Court.
Up in orbit, the Endeavour astronauts soon will be getting ready for perhaps the final spacewalk of the Hubble telescope repair mission. They were up all night again last night for another round of eye and brain surgery on the flawed telescope. And as correspondent Scott Pelley reports, they did it all with mirrors.
Okay, swing it.
This morning, Endeavour's space mechanics worked under the hood in the final overhaul of Hubble's optics.
Keep coming, okay, stop.
Tom Akers and Catherine Thornton gently moved a package that holds fragile prescription mirrors, seen shining in the lower left corner.
The main thing is protecting that corner once we take the cover off of those optics, but if everything fits right, it's really a straightforward operation.
It's going to be okay, KT.
But first, the astronauts performed an orbital sacrifice. To make room for the new fix, a perfectly good scientific instrument that measures the brightness of stars had to be discarded.
It feels good. I think I'm going to be okay.
It didn't feel quite so good to Jeffrey Percival, who spent 14 years developing the abandoned experiment.
We've managed to do some pretty good science on orbit, and it was sad seeing it come out. It was definitely a sad moment.
But for the greater good, the new optics package slipped into place.
Yes, ma'am. I think it is.
And with that, all of the really big jobs are done, with time left over to wave home.
We've got a good shot of you, Tom, if you want to wave to Kay and the girls.
We've got basically a new telescope up there, and it's going to be real exciting for the astronomical community, I guess, and for the whole world to see what Hubble really can do with a good set of eyeballs.
This is the full-size space shuttle mock-up used by the astronauts to train for this mission. And that's the Hubble telescope model standing up in the back of the cargo bay. Now, later tonight, spacewalk number 5, when the astronauts will install a new power supply in the telescope, and then the entire space shuttle and telescope will be boosted into a higher orbit. So far, things are going well, and the mission seems to be a resounding success. Dan?
Scott Pelley live at the Johnson Space Center. Thanks.
In Austin, Texas, a grand jury today re-indicted U.S. Senator Kay Bailey Hutchison. The Texas Republican was originally charged in September with official misconduct and tampering with evidence, but that indictment was thrown out on a technicality. Hutchison says the charges then and now are politically motivated by Democrats.
Stay with us for much more CBS Evening News, including the one-year anniversary of Operation Restore Hope. An update direct from Somalia. UN Secretary General Boutros Ghali says he will go to North Korea soon to talk about North Korea's suspected nuclear weapons program. The U.S. government reacted coolly to that plan. A spokeswoman noted that President Clinton has been leading the effort to get North Korea to open its nuclear sites for inspection. Today, President Clinton said he hopes he can avoid a crisis over the issue, but he's not sure he can.
Just 1 year ago tonight, U.S. troops hit the beaches of Somalia. They came to bail out a UN peacekeeping mission, feed the hungry, and save a nation. 1 year later, the operation is winding down with most of its high hopes dashed. Correspondent Alan Pizzi is on the scene in Mogadishu.
It began with a Hollywood-style marine landing called Operation Restore Hope. Within a few months, the security provided by U.S. and other troops enabled relief workers to push back the famine that had claimed hundreds of thousands of lives. But war broke out again, and U.S. troops were sent to hunt for Somali warlord Mohammed Aidid. American bodies ended up being dragged through the streets. The arrival of more American firepower was credited with bringing about a ceasefire. The Americans stay mostly in their bases, but the mission somehow seems skewed. The sentiments of the GIs are reflected by the most popular DJ on Armed Forces Radio.
People are damn angry. People feel like everybody I talk to that all of our buddies died for nothing. You know, what was the mission? What's the deal? And everybody thinks that they died for nothing.
But the overall mission of Restore Hope has worked. The famine has been beaten and the semblance of normality is returning.
Now everywhere you go, children are riding bikes, they're kicking balls in the streets, they're running around, they're playing games after they've come out of school. So they're doing the normal things that every kid is entitled to throughout the world.
The Americans' main job is security and logistics, keeping the supply lines of the UN force open. And even after a year, they only feel safe behind the guns that separate them from the people they came to help. There isn't a soldier here who isn't counting the days.
The last U.S. troops are scheduled to pull out of Somalia on March 31st. The Europeans will also go, leaving third world armies with the job of keeping Somalia from slipping back into anarchy and famine.
Somalis seem to look more to the United States than to the United Nations to help them, and they too worry about the Americans leaving.
By the time they move out, if there is no political stability or peace agreement, there might be an eruption of war again.
But there is little evidence that message has gotten through, and even American guns haven't managed to make this a safe place. Alan Pizzi, CBS News, Mogadishu.
Still to come on tonight's CBS Evening News, Eye on America. Tonight, tuning in to one talk radio show with a different spin on fighting crime. In Washington, President Clinton today signed the NAFTA agreement. The deal creating the U.S. free trade zone with Canada and Mexico takes effect January 1st. Mr. Clinton used today's ceremony to pitch for the much bigger trade agreement called GATT. That one involves more than 100 countries, including U.S. trade competitors in Europe and Asia.
The signing ceremony was a way for President Clinton to lobby for his open-door policy on trade, but he also found himself defending the revolving-door policy and ethics of two of his own top aides. CBS News White House correspondent Rita Braver reports why.
As he signed the NAFTA treaty today, President Clinton praised his departing chief congressional liaison.
I'm going to give the first of these pens to a person who is leaving my employ, but without whom we could not have passed this bill, my friend Howard Pastor.
The attaboy came just as Pastor and another departing White House aide, Deputy Chief of Staff Roy Neal, came under fire for taking jobs with firms that lobby Washington. The criticism has been especially harsh because President Clinton campaigned against the revolving door, the practice of rotating from government to lobbying. Both men say they'll not personally engage in lobbying, but watchdog groups say that's not good enough.
It sends a message to all their clients and to future clients, and believe me, there will be future clients, that if you want to get things done and you want answers in Washington, go to those people because that guy used to work in the White House.
But Pastor claims his company will not exploit his White House connection.
There will be very specific orders, and there will be very specific guidance that nobody may, in the purpose of either trying to secure business or in representing people, try and tread on that.
And President Clinton, who made a big show of putting his appointees under tougher ethics standards, insists there's no conflict between his rhetoric and his appointees' new jobs.
We've raised the wall higher, which is exactly what I promised to do.
But a new CBS News poll says that 66% of Americans believe that as far as standards of conduct go, Bill Clinton's appointees are just like all the rest. Rita Braver, CBS News at the White House.
The U.S. Army's former top civilian official has a controversial new job. Last summer, John Shannon stepped down as acting Army Secretary. That was after he was caught shoplifting women's clothing from a PX. Well, Shannon is now rehired as a Defense Department consultant. His job? To survey Pentagon inventories and recommend what to dispose of and what to keep. The job pays up to $85,000 a year.
If you are one of the millions of listeners to talk radio, you know that one of the hottest topics these days is violent crime. Among all the stations, there is one that does much more than talk about crime. It tries to talk people out of crime. CBS News correspondent Anthony Mason listens in for tonight's Eye on America.
If you're just tuning in, the show is Street Soldiers on 106 KMEL.
Monday night in San Francisco, a remarkable radio program takes the air and tunes in to the sounds of the inner city. Its poetry.
All of their problems were solved with a trigger. They called each other bitches and niggas.
And its troubles.
You were telling us that your friend who was in a gang got shot at?
Yeah.
Margaret Norris and Joe Marshall, high school teachers, are the volunteer hosts of Street Soldiers, a program with a mission.
To try and keep the peace, to try and stop the violence, stop the bloodshed.
So the dude's brother turned around and blew Vincent's head off.
Oh, no.
In all of the voices, what do you hear in those voices?
You hear pain. You hear pain, so much pain.
Yeah.
And then from there, you hear anger and confusion.
Hopelessness.
Hopelessness.
Yeah.
And then there's a wee little voice in there that says, but I really don't want to give up.
In its 2 years on the air, Street Soldiers has earned the begrudging respect of the gang members it tries to heal. Some now visit the show, which has built an audience of nearly 200,000 listeners, among them Otis Mims.
When I got 17, I got introduced to crack. I had no money. I had to go in the stores and steal for my food, and practically almost finished me, you know.
Otis Mims listened for 4 months before summoning the courage to call Street Soldiers.
It's a big phone call.
Yeah, it was. It was. It turned my life around.
In high school, he was a football all-star, courted by colleges across the country. With Street Soldiers' help, Otis Mims kicked crack, got into college, and back into football.
I mean, we did Street Soldiers for no one else. And we did for Otis.
Yeah.
2 minutes after 1 o'clock at KMEL, San Francisco, Oakland, San Jose. Street soldiers, you're on the air. Hi.
Another night, another killing.
I just lost my brother last night, and I'm going through a little phase. And hopefully we find out who did it, so we can get some type of revenge.
You shouldn't go by the way of getting revenge.
With the help of some visiting gang leaders from Los Angeles, the street soldiers worked to stop another killing.
When my brother was shot 5 times and he was laying in the hospital in critical condition, I went out and got my revenge. And 2 weeks later, I was in jail for first-degree murder.
If you take somebody that I love for me, I'm going to take your life or take somebody that you love.
It just happened. You got to grieve, you got to mourn, you got to back up, and you got to think. Think. That's the main thing. Think so you won't repeat a mistake that's already been done.
The young caller says goodbye to street soldiers, but in the middle of the night, a radio program has somehow reached an angry young man.
We're back, and before we say our good nights, we got the young brother back on the line who lost his brother who called up earlier.
Near 2 a.m., the 17-year-old calls back. He's made a decision.
I was sitting here with my gun in my hand. I put it down. I decided I'm going to give y'all a chance.
Anybody want to know why we do what we do? That's it. There it is.
In San Francisco, I'm Anthony Mason for Eye on America.
CBS News will further explore the problem of violent crime in this country later tonight on 48 Hours. We will take you to Florida, where the sun once attracted many vacationers. Now, crime is driving them away. And of course, Florida is not the only place. 48 Hours, State of Fear. That's tonight at 10, 9 Central Time. I'll see you then.
And Dan and I will see you again tomorrow on the CBS Evening News. Thank you for joining us, and for all of us at CBS News, good night.
And to our Jewish friends, Happy Hanukkah. Good night.